So to paint the picture, I'm going to take us back a couple of hundred years to London, August of 1854, where there was, it's not as popular as the Great Fire of London or anything like that, but there was an incident that became somewhat famous for reasons you'll see, and that is cholera. So cholera was ravaging the Soho district. There were hundreds of people dying, right, each day. And all the physicians in the area were busy cataloging all the data, right? They were capturing patient data, symptom data, dates. So they had a wealth of data. They had cases everywhere, but nobody could make sense of it. The hypothesis at the time was that the disease was being spread through the air. So all the interventions, all the kind of preventative measures were all focused around that. Along came a physician named John Snow, right? Not the Game of Thrones John Snow. This is a real guy. He did something a bit different. What he did was he took the same death records and he plotted them on a map, not just where the people died, but their relationship to water sources. So he had a different hypothesis. And immediately the pattern started to emerge. There was a clustering in terms of where people were dying. And that clustering could be explained by particular water sources, and more specifically, the Broad Street pump. So if you Google Broad Street pump, you'll very quickly hear about this case and why it was so famous. The takeaway for us in banking and in architecture is that the insight wasn't in the case data, it was in the connection between different data sources. In this case, the cases and deaths and the water sources and the pump. So what John did immediately was order the Broad Street pump to be shut down, and within 24 hours, the cases began to reduce, and within a week, there were no more cases. So it was extremely famous because that one insight, coupled with one intervention, literally saved thousands of lives, right? Now, why is that relevant for us? Today, banks have a lot of data, right? So for example, if you look at your application inventory, you will almost certainly have some kind of app catalog, and that will list your applications. It'll list who owns them. It'll list what life cycle state they're in. It'll have their operational cost. So you'll have all this cataloged, right? What that tells you is simply what you have, but it doesn't answer what depends on what. Now, if you were to start to create a relationship between these data sources and connect them, you could start to get insights. So you connect your journeys to your applications using the BIAN service domain, and we'll see in a little while why that's such a crucial link. That same data, but connected in the right way, reveals that you've got high value customer journeys that depend on the fraud watch application, and that's end of life with no migration plan, and there are 180,000 customers affected, right? So you could not get these insights through a single source. What you can do when you relate the data is to start to see, you can trace the impact, the risk, the dependency across the enterprise. So in the same way, John Snow, he didn't need more records. He just needed to structure them to reveal the connection between them.